Hey folks, Aunt Diane here during a thunderstorm, and I had to take my glasses off because they give a terrible glare. Today I'm going to do a short video about 4 true TV movies. This time they're not about true crime, they're about HIV AIDS and in heterosexual people. The first movie I'm going to discuss is called And Then There Was One. It came out in the beginning of 1994, but it takes place in the 1980s. And one of the writers of the movie, or one of the directors, she helped produce it, and she wrote the actual story, was Roxy Ventola. By the end of the movie, in the story, she was still surviving. It's a husband and wife, a successful television writing couple. They have a lot of trouble conceiving until they do in vitro fertilization. The baby starts getting sick, and it's discovered the baby has AIDS, and the doctor suggests the mother and father, get tested as well, and they're both positive. What's really notable in this movie, is that this took place in the 80s when their good friends who they trusted were a little bit nervous about being next to them, still thinking that it was something you can catch casually, which was scientifically debunked by then, but people were still, worried about that. The father, Vinny, passes away within a day of the baby. I think he passed away one day, the baby passed away the next day. And then there was one, that one being Roxy. She ends up remarrying an AIDS activist and making a lot of friends in the community. And by now, the new antiretroviral medications are coming out, so there starts to be hope. But unfortunately for her, she passes away at the end of 1994. The movie Fatal Love, aka Something to Live For, starring Molly Ringwald. She did an excellent job, by the way. It's about a young lady named Allison Gertz who passed away at the end of 1992, and this movie came out in the beginning of 1992. About a young lady who had a good future going for her. She was in her early 20s, and she all of a sudden started getting sick. So sick that she ends up in the hospital, and it's discovered that she has AIDS. She does now first she's in denial and very upset. And she contacts the 4 or 5 guys that she was with throughout her life, and all of them got tested and none of them were positive. Finally, one of her friends says to her, a gay male friend who she's strictly platonic with, said, "What about so-and-so?" She was with a bartender when she was 16. Now, she was on the pill. That's all people worried about in the, the late 70s, or before the AIDS epidemic really came into public focus. She was on the pills, so she figured, okay, women were just worried about getting pregnant. It turned out that the friend said this guy died of AIDS. She was like, oh my God, that's where she got it. It was really sad, though, because her long-term boyfriend that was with her before she was diagnosed distanced himself. He couldn't do it any longer. Even one of her friends who she used to hang out with distanced herself too. And she started dating a guy briefly, and he knew she had AIDS right from the start. And she was so happy because he was still taking her out. They were holding hands, having fun. And they go back to her place one night, and she's hoping to get a little intimate. She was willing to use protection, everything. He was like, no, I just, I don't think of you that way or whatever. She was so upset because she felt he led her on. And, she said, get out of here, yada, 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 get out of here, you jerk. She tells the mom later, and the mom's like, well, what do you expect? Which is really sad. Sad but true. And then she actually meets a guy when she's in the hospital again. She's very sick this time. And this guy is a fellow patient in the hospital, and he's got AIDS as well. And he gives her this inspirational book to read, and he says, you can keep it and everything. She goes to visit him again a few days later, and it turns out he passed away. It was just really sad. At the end of the movie, it shows her going to a retreat with her family, and the retreat is put out by this woman who wrote this inspirational book. There she meets a young girl with cancer who had lost all her hair. She was wearing a bandana to cover her bald head, and she was trying to encourage this other girl, and the other girl's like, what's the use? And she's trying. It was just very, very inspiring and sad at the same time. Now, the first showing of the movie, which is early 1992, she was still alive. They actually interviewed her. It's like a 5-minute segment or a little piece on the news. It's a big thing that it was on TV for the first time. She goes, I just had a really bad spell. I almost died. Now when they show it on TV, when they do, it actually puts a little thing at the end that she had died, later that year. Very sad because, she wasn't gay. She didn't have a blood transfusion. She wasn't an IV drug addict. So this movie tells a story, and it's just very sad, and I can only pray for her family. Nobody, even if you are gay, drug addict, or anything, you don't deserve to have AIDS either. What the point I was trying to make was that she didn't fit any of the high risk groups, is what I'm trying to say. And I give her a lot of credit because she went around to schools giving speeches to other kids as a precautionary tale. You can just be a upper class girl from a normal family and still get it. And I give her a ton of credit for doing that. God bless her. We all know who Ryan White is, don't we? A sweet, intelligent boy who contracted AIDS at the age of 13. He was a hemophiliac who used factor VIII, which was a product made from the plasma of several donors before the donations were being tested. First, his friends weren't allowed to hang out with him. Then they weren't letting him back in school. And through a legal fight, he was finally able to go back. Then people threw rocks through his window. It was horrible. Finally, they moved to a new town, new school, and he was welcomed with open arms. His funeral was attended by famous people like Michael Jackson and Elton John, and he's probably known the world over for helping change people's perception. Of note, a related story that hasn't been given nearly as much publicity. There were 3 boys living in Florida, in a small rural town in Florida. Their house was burnt down. The 3 brothers all were hemophiliacs, and they all got AIDS from the factor VIII as well. And all the neighbors, they didn't want somebody with AIDS living around. They burnt the house down. Now, thank God everybody got out of the house. But I mean, what a horrible thing to do. They had to move to a new area. In the meantime, 2 of the brothers had succumbed to the disease. And Ryan White did have a bit of happiness before he passed away at the age of 18. He had a part-time job. He made a lot of friends in his new school, and he got to go to the prom. Girl Positive is about a young lady a young high school girl who sleeps with Mr. Superstud, and she gets HIV. She's in total denial. She's really upset. But her teacher, who's played by Jenny Garth, turns out that she has it too, and she's living with it. She has a couple of setbacks. At one point, I think she passes out or something. But, then she's okay. By this point of this movie, there were antiretrovirals, and people were surviving by this point, or significantly extending their lives. So, although the name of the movie is Girl Positive, this was a true story, by the way, but they don't say who the real girl is, which is, fine. it still gives it still sends a lesson, not to just go sleeping around and without protection. And number two, it's not necessarily a death sentence anymore. As the last movie shows, if you don't know you have HIV, it could progress to AIDS. If you don't know you have it and you don't get on antiretrovirals, how's it going to help you? There is a case of a man, and I don't know if I could say his name, so I won't, but he was a man in the theater industry, very good looking, average guy, nice guy. He passed away a couple years ago because he never knew he had it. And I guess, that happens whether you're in a first world country or in a more developing country where they do have more problems getting the medications and whatnot. So you don't have to fall into any of the high risk groups to have it. You still need to be careful. Okay. Yeah. The big epidemic and the mystery is over, but unfortunately, even with COVID, COVID has kind of taken over as the new thing to be afraid of. But we have to protect ourselves no matter what, and we have to be thankful for what we do have and strive to get what we don't have. And number one, we have to look after ourselves and our loved ones. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, even though sometimes I go into really dark subject matter, don't I? But I think that the moral to my videos is to appreciate what we have and try to protect ourselves from losing what we have. God bless you all. I hope you'll like and subscribe. Still a new YouTuber. I'm about a little over 3 months, but I've got more stuff in store, and I am on Instagram, same name, Antium157. You can either leave a suggestion in the comments, be nice please, or you can write to me, direct message me on Instagram if you want. God bless. I love you. Bye-bye.